Hey everybody, and welcome to the Whole Package by Premier Packaging. I'm your host, Billy Watkins, and today's guest is Rob Lynch. Rob, welcome.
Thank you.
You are Premier's Senior Manager of IT Operations.
That's correct.
Why don't you give us a little biography about yourself? Where are you from?
So, originally from Lexington.
Okay.
Lived there most of my life. Since I was about 10 years old, I met a couple friends that were from here through my parents. Their parents, coincidentally, worked out of Lexington.
Okay.
So I met it's a mutual friend of me and Mike's. His name's Gideon Brown.
Mike King. Okay.
Yeah, he. So I met him when I was about 10, and we got to be good friends. So we would kind of bounce back and forth between Lexington and Louisville.
Yeah.
And then about 5 years later, I met Mike. So I've known him since I was about 15 years old, and then just kind of been friends through the internet ever since. Yeah.
At what point did you become interested in computers?
So I've always been interested, or I guess in the past I was more interested in just electronics, right? So like VCRs, CD players, all speakers, anything like that was kind of the big electronics.
I kind of miss VCRs. And
yeah, well, you had the dual player, you had the DVD,
yeah.
and it was like two video components in one. It seemed more fun than just the one DVR box. But
I don't know if I ever had the dual. I think I had Betamax.
You never had a dual?
No, just kidding.
Well, the duals were. But no, yeah. So I just like to tinker with things.
Yeah.
I was never big on the engineering side of it, but I was like to push buttons. So computers were like a secondary thing. I didn't fall into computers specifically till a little later in life.
So, because you graduated from ITT Technical Institute in Lexington,
correct?
With a multimedia degree, right? So
right. So the original plans were to go into game design, like every kid my age. When I was in college, wanted to do game design because games were huge,
right?
And they always were. So after the first 2 years, I realized it wasn't really what I wanted to do. Like I never had a true goal on what I wanted. So that degree was actually more so in line with 3D design and Flash before Flash got canceled.
Yeah.
And some programming, kind of things like that. So not really much of PC from a technical standpoint. Not really. I didn't really learn a whole lot in there, to be honest, related to what I do today.
Right. It's kind of the way it goes.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you go learn anything else and then do a job completely different.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. After college, you worked in a customer service role for
a couple different jobs. So during high school, I worked co-ed and I worked at a dollar store. It was my first job ever. Learned a lot about angry people that didn't want to pay more than $1 for an item.
Well, it's in the name.
Yeah, it is. Don't
Everything's
work
a dollar.
Yeah,
everything's a dollar.
We worked at a Dollar General, so
okay.
generally most of the things were $1, and they were not happy with that. They didn't read the sign.
That's how they get out of
it.
I like it.
But after that, so I worked for a company called Ken Isaacs. I did a little bit of personal IT work for them. It's actually one of the places my mother worked. We had a good relationship with their boss and some of the owners there. We used to go to the lake with them. So I did some IT work for them, and then I worked mainly at a valet for the airport in Lexington.
Oh, okay.
I worked there for about 7 or 8 years, and pretty much found my niche on being able to handle tough situations.
Yeah, which gets thrown at you on a daily basis, and the customer service aspect was probably good learning because you are constantly dealing with internal customers, right? That's
pretty much.
Job.
Yeah, running into people parking cars, no matter what time their plane is, and how angry they can be about their luggage, is a quick speed run to customer service.
You have been with Premier since 2015. And I've known you since you've been here, but I guess wow, time flies. I didn't realize it'd been that long.
I've everybody asks me how long I've been here, and I tell them different years every time, just because I never remember.
Right.
I can never remember my start date. But yes, Thanks for reminding me.
2015. Talk to us about your duties in IT up to now. I mean, you've worn a lot of hats, right?
Yeah, so kind of across the board. When I first started, Mike hired me, and I was doing just kind of basic level Tech 1 support. Put PCs together, troubleshooting kind of generic issues, some Office 365 issues. As time went on, Mike kind of introduced me to a little more of the networking piece. So with eMerge, our managed service provider, we never had to get into the weeds a whole lot from the back end.
Right.
So I learned a lot of front end work. So I learned how to support our employees a little more than having to worry about the sites. So, learning the networking piece, being able to troubleshoot some switches, cables that might be broken. After that, we kind of, dipped our feet into security.
Okay.
So learned a little bit more about keeping things secure from a firewall standpoint. Mike bought some of the first streamlined firewalls for here. So I got to learn how to dabble in that a little bit, dig through kind of more email logs and security threats that were kind of hitting the environment. Mainly after that, it kind of transferred into management with eMerge. So it's kind of more of a manager role and being able to assess when to kind of flip over to like, oh my God, this is a P1 issue. We've got an internet outage or a site's down. How can we get them up faster? Who do we need to contact to get things in order? What's the root cause? Some of that stuff.
A little loftier than just, 7 hours a day of my mouse isn't working.
Pretty much, yeah.
My printer's jammed, right?
I think the first big issue that Mike taught me how to do was clear out temp profiles. And that was way back. I think the first year I was here, we were using terminal servers. Mm-hmm. And if there was an internet outage, if I think Comcast at the time is who we had, if Comcast had an outage locally in Louisville, it would knock everybody out and create a essentially temporary profile. And what that does is give you a generic desktop. So instead of logging in with all your name and all your information on it, it's just blank.
Right.
And the only way to clear that is to manually go line by line in the system and delete them and then have everybody re-sign in. And doing that about 400 times once a week at the time before we got it fixed got me pretty good at it. I was pretty quick. I could get it done in about an hour.
But we've advanced since then.
Yes,
So
we've
nice.
taken leaps and bounds since those days.
So when when any Premier employee contacts IT about a computer problem, any sort of user issue, what's it like on your all's end? Are you okay? We just got to get this fixed as quickly as possible. Or are you more like are you a little more methodical about it?
It's a little both. There's essentially a checklist that we kind of run down, and it's we assess the problem. We determine the severity of the level of the issue and what's the remediation we need to take in order to fix it. So someone puts in a ticket. If we assess it, is this something, first of all, what department put in the ticket? Like what's the severity of that person's job? Obviously, everybody's job here is important, but when it comes to different priorities in the system, whether it's getting orders in, shipping, what have you, there are a priority of things. So what we'll do is determine, is this something we can quickly fix just to get them back up and running?
Right.
Is this a more severe issue that's starting to spread to other people? Do we need to implement a permanent fix immediately? Or can we just make do with a workaround, kind of get them limping along, and then work on a permanent fix on the backside?
Right.
So there is a checklist that we have to hit in order to kind of move on. I'll say it's a little bit of everything.
Not too long ago, and now I can't. Well, I mean, your all's. I guess the support was wonderful and seamless, and you got my problem fixed. Because now I can't even really remember what the heck. I know I was completely shut out of something, and it had to have been kind of serious because you all said I had to come in and physically. It's not something you could have fixed. I had to physically bring my computer to you.
Right.
I don't know if I'd ever been
It might have
downstairs
been-
in your all's master control. I mean, an
Oh,
impressive place. I mean,
right,
just
the
with
new, yeah. So the
wires
new
everywhere. Yeah.
the new Office 3900 has been great. Having our own essential, what they call as a NOC, is what they would call it an MSP, is essentially a command center.
Yeah,
for what you
and
wanna say.
certainly-
it's
yeah.
a series of, it's an environment dedicated to IT personnel
Okay.
to work and troubleshoot tickets. So you're probably gonna have an issue with the wireless radius if you haven't been on site in a long time.
No. Yeah. I haven't.
So wireless radius is one of the new security functions that were implemented by the security team, and it allows us to govern the logins to the network purely by your user account. So if you are not a user or not a employee of this company with a login, you cannot connect without authorization.
Right.
Where beforehand, if you had the password, you could get on, which is never great. Obviously, we change the passwords on a regular basis, but this is kind of a better level
What
of
was
security
the,
for that.
the password was always change my password, right?
Right. Yeah.
I missed
yeah,
that.
the change it one and some of those other goofy ones that we used to use way in the past. But those have long since been eradicated.
So much of the focus is not just day-to-day business with everything that we have. It is all focused on cybersecurity, right?
Right. It's the big boom right now. So it's always been the forefront of technology. How can we be more secure, and what can we do to stay safe? Because threats are ever evolving. And so to try to stay ahead of the game is a constant challenge.
And it's serious. I mean, it is absolutely serious. There are forces out there that they're just bread and butter,
Right, yeah.
to just find a chink in the armor and exploit it, right?
Yeah, there's groups that do nothing but wait for a new release on whatever it may be, whether it's Microsoft, an app, doesn't matter. And all they do is dedicate 100% of their time to try to find a hole to see how they can exploit that issue. Whether the companies themselves do their own internal investigations on potential holes or cracks that they can find themselves, it's always the external groups that figure out a way to get in.
In that line, would you and not with Premiere, but would you want to maybe you and I get together, and if this is possible, and if you're able to do this, and maybe we pick a competitor or something. But is there any way we can write some program to round up pennies and put them in a bank account? Like the Superman 3 thing, the Office Space. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Vaguely.
No? You need to check that out, and we could maybe
Yeah.
make a little money on the side.
Okay, I
is
mean,
all I'm-
whatever we got to do. As long as it gets us to tomorrow, that's all that matters.
One of the things you do, back to helping everyone out, you manage the help desk, right?
Correct.
So how has that process evolved? Has it become more efficient?
Yes, very. Over the years with the help that I've had, Cord Taylor and Robert Baxter, really kind of manning the service desk underneath me. As we grew, it was mainly my responsibility to make sure that we kept things in an orderly fashion. My biggest, and it goes back to some of my early jobs, is customer service is always key, right? We always want the person on the other end to be happy. It's very frustrating when you can't do your job, and that's all anyone ever wants to do. So they just want to come in and do their job and make way with their day.
Right.
So that's always been the focus and the forefront for the service desk. So keeping that as our number one priority is, I think, helped kind of improve us over the years.
Yeah, and certainly from my experience, like I said, it's been pretty darn seamless. What I'm not a power user of anything. Whatever happened to floppy disks? Why don't we use those?
So it's space, actually. So back when the floppy disks were actually floppy.
I love that you're taking this seriously and you're going to answer my
I know a
question
little bit.
about
I know a
floppy
little
disk.
bit. Technically, I came in after floppy disks when they were floppy hard disks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You went from the 5.5
Yeah,
inch
right,
to
to
the
the
3.5
whatever,
or
yeah.
whatever.
And space basically. They could only contain so many
much
kilobytes and megabytes that we just had to
now
upgrade.
everything's in the cloud. Now
Everything's cloud-based.
I feel like everything on my phone now, and I pay for so many gigs of storage in the cloud, and then but I also feel like once it goes to the cloud, I have no idea how to get to it. It's gone, and I've lost it. I mean, I need to sit down at some point and figure out what I've done.
Well, they have a file cabinet for all cloud users. No.
Yeah, I think I need something a little more analog. I guess I'm old.
Yeah, with everything has an app now. It's pretty much what it is.
I'm trying to be better about that, other than having a particular app for something, because I realized at some point all I was doing was just going to Google or Safari and just
typing it in,
looking stuff up on the internet. And
That's
that
okay.
was fine by me.
That.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So
you're not alone. Yeah.
But there's an app for that.
There's an app. Yeah.
According to a 2020 World Economic Forum report, AI, this is a scary kind of thing, is expected to replace 85 million jobs worldwide by 2025. I don't know what kind of job, but one of those jobs is computer programmer.
Yeah.
So with things like Chat GPT already being used to write code, that sort of thing, are we going to be talking to robots in the future when we have issues?
Honestly, it's hard to tell. So chatbots have been a thing for a while.
Yeah.
You go to your bank and you try to talk with their support. There's always a chat bot that can try to help you out for small things, reset your password, things like that.
So I'm not talking to anybody. That's actually a bot.
That's actually a bot. Now there are some sites that
actually have
a real chat system, but it always starts with a bot.
Yeah.
With AI, that is going to skyrocket. So it's going to be very difficult to tell whether or not you're talking to a bot. The easiest way to tell the difference, in my opinion, with ChatGPT is if someone creates an email. So that's what it's being used for a lot right now. So on top of coding, you can ask it to write you an email. You can ask it to write you a paper, a podcast, literally anything, almost anything you can do. Wait, this was written with Chip. No.
Yeah.
But it's the wording is not as a human would say it.
Right.
So there are small things you can see that kind of give it away, but it's going to be hard to tell.
Is it just one of those things where it is kind of a natural progression, and yes, there's good things about it and maybe iffy things about it? Is everybody freaking out about it, or
a little
or
both.
Are we looking at Skynet? I mean,
it's so Skynet's on the table, in my opinion. Wow. It's so there's good and bad. So the good obviously is it allowing to automate menial tasks, right? There's a lot of things that just take time and resources that we don't really have a lot of, at times poor choice of words, but a lot of ways to dedicate to doing some of these menial tasks. But ChatGPT, if a bot can press a button over and over for you, then why do you need a person there?
Yeah.
They freeze them up to do something else. But the downside of that is some of the legality issues. So I think, right now there's not a lot of legal ways to control AI. They just recently passed a law governing like AI animation. So if something is completely AI generated from an animated standpoint, you can't copyright it because it was made by a robot.
Right.
It was made by a human. As long as it has zero human interactivity. I don't know how far it's gone. I know it's started in California most likely, but I think things like that are going to start becoming more prevalent, where they don't really know how to manage it from a government standpoint, and that's where it might start to go out of control.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's a little. It can be scary, but there are
tuned.
plenty of things that it can benefit to.
Do you, when you go home, are you still are you still on the computer, or do you just do you sit in a dark room with no technology?
Right, just head
do you-
down. Yeah, stare at a wall. I do. Yeah, it's pretty much my life.
You
at
live
this
it and
point.
breathe it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's when I'm not here on a PC, I'm at home on a PC. I try to take my scheduled times out of the day to kind of clear my head, because it can be a lot, when you're constantly staring at a screen every day, all day, for 16, 18 hours a day. You just want to kind of blank out for a little bit.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to shut down and reset, and then that's helpful for anything.
I know I do. I do it midway through podcasts half the time.
There you go.
The digital world, it is it's always evolving. What do you anything any thoughts on what's coming down the pipeline?
So, I mean, right now it's AI. It's so popular right now. It's our biggest boom since the internet,
Right,
in my
yeah.
opinion, as far as like a leap in technology.
Go from floppy disks to internet to AI.
Right,
Yes,
yeah,
right.
those are the huge jumps. Machine learning is actually very impressive and intriguing, in my opinion. Machine learning is getting to a point where it's very concrete, and AI is actually helping that. So machine learning, as an example, you can have a manufacturing machine operate on a series of rollers, and machine learning can analyze those rollers, determine how many rotations they're having on a daily basis, hourly basis, seconds, and it'll tell you this part's going to go out in 4 days. You need to order another one. And that kind of technology, from an AI standpoint, is
Pretty impressive.
what we need.
Yeah.
That keeps everything running.
Right.
That to me is
Improves efficiency. and
is something
actually
that I think, as we get better at understanding those programs and writing those programs, that's going to be a big help for the future.
Yep. And until the eventual robot Armageddon.
Yeah, takedown, and we're all living in some.
When
kind of
it
box.
happens, can I use the help desk to?
You can
to
still put in
type
a ticket.
Rob,
Yeah, we'll still be
Rob,
here.
I'm screwed. Come help. Yep.
I might be half machine, when I answer your question.
It's a good
but,
look. It'll be a good look.
It'll be within a 15-minute SLA.
Rob, thank you very much
Thanks for
for
having me.
joining us today. Interesting stuff. I'm Billy Watkins for the Whole Package by Premier Packaging. Until next time, everybody. Bye-bye.
Do you have comments, questions, or ideas about this topic? If so, we'd like to hear from you. Please visit primpack.com/podcast to let us know what you think. Thanks.